Welcome to George Crafts. Today we are going to do part 3 in our Harry Potter Make Your Own Hat Kit series. So today we are going to look at shaping the crown, but first of all you're going to need to finish up with your yellow yarn or your second colour yarn. So from here on in you're only going to be using the red colour. So if you've been carrying the tails of your yarn up the side of your work, the tail and the yellow will be sticking out of the top. All you need to do is cut the yarn or break the yarn off, and then I like to make sure my work is nice and secure by just tying a knot. And now it's not going to unravel and you're not going to have to deal with the yellow yarn being attached to your work. So now we're going to look at how to shape the crown of the hat. So the pattern says we need to knit one, and then there are some instructions in brackets. So knit one, and then the brackets we need to think of like a unit. So there's the instructions in brackets followed by 6 times. So it wants you to repeat the unit 6 times. You don't need to repeat the knit one 6 times. So to do the unit, first of all we have to knit 6. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Then our instructions say S2KPO. So that means slip 2 stitches. So to do that, pop your needle into one stitch and lift it off the needle, into the second stitch and lift that off the needle. Knit 1, okay, and then with the 2 stitches that we just slipped, we're going to pick them up with our needle. Hold our yarn tightly so we don't drop any stitches, and then just pull those 2 slip stitches up to the top of our knitting needle and pass them over the stitch we just made. And then the final step of the unit is to knit 6 again. So we'll go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So we've come to the end of the unit and it wants us to do that 6 times. So continue making your units to the end of the row, and then you'll work a few rows of stocking stitch, and then you'll have more units to do. Then once you've got all the way up to row 14 of the crown shaping, I will catch up with you again. We've now reached row 14 of our pattern, so this is the last row in the hat. So I'll show you how to do row 14 because the instructions are slightly different. So we need to purl 1, so we're going to bring our needle in front, make the stitch, and then we need to purl 3 together. So put your needle through the 3 stitches, wrap the yarn around and pull all 3 stitches off your hook, and then do the same again. So 1, 2 and 3, Wrap the yarn around. And pull all 3 stitches off the hook. Same again, so 1, 2, 3, yarn around, pull all 3 stitches off the needle. 1, 2, 3, yarn around, all 3 stitches to come off the needle. So 1, 2 and 3, yarn around and pull all 3 stitches off the needle. Last one, 1, 2, 3, yarn around and pull all 3 stitches off the needle, and then finish with 1 more purl. So now you have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 stitches left. So that's all the knitting you need to do. Then you need to leave yourself quite a long tail. Now I'm just going to get a darning needle. So I can pop the tail through the stitches at the top, because it doesn't ask you to cast off, it just wants you to close all your stitches together. So thread up your darning needle and pass it through the stitches that you have on your needle. And then once we've done this, you'll be able to sew your hat up down the one seam, which I'll show you how to do. If you've been enjoying this video or you found it helpful, please make sure you let me know in the comments underneath. And as always, if you've got any questions, please get in touch either in the comments or on our social media channels. So that's Facebook at GeorgeCraftsBlog and Instagram at George_crafts. And if any of you have made the hat, it'd be really great to see some photos. So we've put our tail through the 8 stitches, and now all we need to do is sew up a seam. So if you turn it so that the wrong side is on the outside of the hat, take your darning needle, and I usually like to go round my stitches a few more times at the top. You don't have to, it's entirely up to you. I just find it makes it a little bit more secure. So pull it nice and tight, and then if you can see these little V marks on the edge of your knitting, you want to pick up one of those V's, pass the darning needle through, and then pick up another one of the V's on the other side and pass the needle through. And then go back the other way, picking up another V, on each side. So work all the way down the seam until you get to the bottom. Make sure when you get to the colour stripes that you have them lined up with each other, because you don't want them to go wonky on your seam, so it looks like two continuous circles of yellow around the hat. And I will catch up with you when you get to the bottom. So once you've reached the bottom of your seam, you're going to need to tie off. So what I tend to do is just go back through my final stitch a couple more times, like so, and then tie a knot. So then all you have to do is break off the yarn again and then sew in your ends. I won't show you how to do that because I'm sure you can manage. Then all you've got to do is to pop your pom-pom on the top. So in our kit we're given these two C-shaped pieces of card, and this is our pom-pom template. So I'll show you how to make your pom-pom. So start off, cut a length of yarn, and then sandwich the yarn between the two pieces of card. Okay, because that's going to be what holds your pom-pom together. Then what you need to do, is just wind your ball of yarn around the cardboard C-shapes. All the while making sure that you can grab hold of that bit of yarn that's in the middle. And the more times you wrap the yarn around, the bigger your pom-pom will be. So you want to do quite a few wraps because you don't want a limp pom-pom, because that would be very sad. You spent all that time making your bubble hat and your bubbles floppy. You don't want that. So just keep winding, and I will catch up with you again when you've wound your yarn on and show you how to finish off your pom-pom. So once you've wrapped the yarn around the cardboard, it will look something like this, and you should have your two tails sticking out. Just pull those tails very tight and then tie them in a knot. Tie it a couple of times so it's nice and secure, because this is what's going to stop your pom-pom from falling to bits. And then, keeping your tails out of the way, pop the blade of your scissors between the two pieces of cardboard and just snip the yarn. So it turns out that this cardboard is rubbish. It's very brittle. And breaks up while you're cutting. But anyway, once you've snipped all the wool, you'll be left with your pom-pom. And if you want to neaten it up, just give it a little bit of a haircut. And all you have to do then is attach the pom-pom to your hat with the tails of your yarn. Take your hat and your darning needle and then thread the needle up. I'm just going to trim that bit off because it's a bit bobbly. It's going to make my needle harder to thread. And then find the middle of your hat at the top and then just pop the needle in through the middle. And that's one of your threads. Put the needle up, thread through the middle of the hat again. Okay, then you've got your 2 threads and just tie them off. And then all you've got to do is sew in these 2 ends and your hat will be finished. I'm not quite sure who this hat is supposed to fit. Perhaps a child, I don't know. But as you can see from the model, you can see that this hat is fairly well stretched to fit over her head. So don't be disappointed if your hat is rather tiny and doesn't look very good. It's not your knitting, it's the pattern. If you would like to see more from us, make sure you subscribe to our channel and I'll catch up with you again soon. Bye bye.